Okay, so I think we can start. If anybody is going to join, they join. To recap the last session, we talked about mobiles and how they're different from websites. And then we talked about Kotlin and why we're using Kotlin instead of, Flutter or any other platform. We then even talked about why you should do this course and how this course is going to go about, how this workshop is going to go about. And then we saw in brief the basic syntax of Kotlin and how it is different from Java. Then I told you to complete some parts of Kotlin cones, but it's okay if you have not completed it. The only thing is that you should be familiar with the syntax a little bit, and wherever required, I will reiterate it. So you don't have to worry if you don't know Kotlin yet. For those of you who have, just joined and not attended the first session, it's okay. Because today we are going to be focusing more on the practical aspects. We are going to be, building stuff from today. We are going to be looking at concepts today. So we have a lot of things to do today. What we will be doing is we'll be learning about user interface items like views, view groups, and we'll be studying something called as constraint layout. And we will try and we'll build a very basic UI so that you have a little bit of idea about how to do that. Then we will study about activities and fragments. And when we talk about fragments, we will also be learning about navigating between fragments, okay? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, it's okay, because we are going to be learning that. I'm just giving you a brief overview of what we are going to be covering this session. Okay, so yeah, before we start, right, we are actually supposed to see how the thing works, how the Android architecture works, the anatomy of an Android project. So before we get started, you require all of these if you want to do the workshop, right? If you want to complete the study jams, you require all of these at least. Experience in an OOP language, basically Java or Python, or any other language which is object-oriented. In our case, we're using Kotlin. Comfortable with an IDE, don't worry, I will introduce you to the IDE that we are going to be using. Familiarity with GitHub. Now, I'll explain you why we need this. And for the rest of the stuff, I hope you already have it. If you don't have an Android phone, then it's okay, because we can also use the emulator. So we will look at Android Studio in a bit and the Android emulator, and we will look at the anatomy of the project. So you can see there are 4 points. There is an activity, there are resources, there is Android manifest, and then there is Gradle files. Okay. Now, I'm not going to be using the PPT much. I'm going to be showing it to you in Android Studio itself. Let me open it up. Okay, so this is Android Studio. Let me start by creating a new project. Okay, I'll go to File and I'll create a new project, and I get this. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. Please let me know in the chat. Yeah, so in this case, right, what we have here is different types of activities, okay? Here they have written activities. What is an activity? I will explain you in just a minute. Right now, I'm selecting this thing called as empty activity, okay? I don't need you to do this practically right now with me, okay? I just need you to concentrate on what I'm talking about here, because very quickly things might get really complicated if you don't follow, okay? I'm going to call this my application, or I can just call it anything. Then there's this location, and I'm going to select my language as Kotlin. Over here, there is this field called as minimum SDK. This is basically, like a compatibility thing, okay? Till what level of your Android can your app work? And they have this thing over here which indicates, okay, if you choose the Android 5 version, that is the Lollipop version, how many devices it will work on. So it is going to work on 94 devices. If I choose something more recent, that is the Android 11, it is going to run on less than 1%, obviously, right? Because very few people must be having that kind of phone. It is safe to use Android 5. The only downside of choosing a lower Android SDK is that you will be not be able to implement some of the features that are there in the newer ones. But if you choose a newer one, there is a chance that on several devices your app will not work because it is not supported. Okay, it's not backward compatible. I'll just keep it on Android 5 and I'll continue. And now it has opened this window for me. Okay, I'll just minimize the other window. And uh, if you notice down below, it is loading. Okay, there's this thing called Gradle and it is loading. It says build model and there are some processes over here that is happening. You let it complete. Okay, for the first time when you run, it takes a lot of time. Abhi ho gaya, but then usually, people think that, hey, I can't see my files over here. And why is that? Because it is actually downloading stuff. Okay, so for me, in my case, because I already have stuff downloaded, uh, it has loaded really quickly. Now we are going to look at the basic layout of Android Studio. Okay, on the left side you can see there are like many files. There's this folder called as manifest, and there is a file called as Android manifest.xml. Okay, I'll open this and I'll show it to you. This is basically an XML file. I'll tell you what this does in a minute. Other than that, there's a folder called Java, and there is this file called main activity.kt. Okay, this is a Kotlin file. This is where we are going to be writing our logic. Our Kotlin code is going to come over here. Then there is another folder. Okay, I'll just close this. There is another folder called res. Res stands for resources. Okay, resource rather. Inside here, there are three folders. There's drawable, there is layout, there is mipmap and values. We will look at layout, and there is activity underscore main.xml. This is your user interface file. Okay, this is actually an XML file. Here you can see a very nice user interface where we can interact with the user interface. We can build it over here. If I click on this, right, code, you can see the XML code over here. We will be interacting with this mostly today, and I will explain what each of these things mean, so you don't have to worry. Even if you miss something right now, you can just put it in chat, or even when you practically do it in code labs also, you will be able to learn stuff over there also. Okay, if you miss anything, right? Otherwise, you can even talk to me on Discord. So you don't have to worry. There's this also option over here called split, where you can see the UI over here and the XML over here. So if you're making any changes in XML, it will always be reflected over here. Okay, last thing that you can see over here is called Gradle scripts. Okay, and then there is this file called as gradle.build, build.gradle rather. Now, one by one, I will be telling you what each of these things do. Okay, I'm starting with Gradle because I ended by telling you what this is. Uh, Notice that there are many files. Okay, why are there so many files over here? Right, resources and stuff. This is not a single program. This is not a Java program. This is not a C program or a Python program. Okay, so we are not going to be using Java, C, or Python, or we're not running this in terminals. We are running this on an Android phone. This is an application. It is a software. It is a combination of many programs. So we cannot just compile it and get a single file. Okay, there is a very lengthy process that you have to do to build the APK. Okay, so what Gradle does is that it builds the APK for you. Okay, now we don't have to get into the details of it. Uh, what you have to remember is that Gradle just gets all your files together and then it creates the APK for you so that your app can run. Okay, that's it. That is what Gradle does. Okay, another thing that Gradle does for you is uh, if you want to use any library that is made by someone, uh, you can add the name of the library over here in dependencies. Okay, in this file over here, build.gradle, there is this section called dependencies. If you check, okay, below over here. So if you have any file, right, we will be using some libraries in today's section, and we will be adding some libraries, and I'll show it to you then also. But just for your information, if you need any library, third-party library that you want to use in your application, here is where you put it. Okay, this line, right? It is the same line like this. Okay, so Gradle will help you to get libraries. It will build the APK for you. Okay, that is all that Gradle does. Then there is XML of activity underscore main. Okay, over here, right, what XML does is like HTML. uh, in HTML, what it does, okay, it tells you how the thing is going to look like on the browser, right? Similarly, in XML, what we specify is how you want the things to look like. Okay, you design your UI over here. There is no functionality, there's no code over here, there's no logic over here. There's only attributes and tags. Okay, in this case, we have something called as a text view, which is saying hello world. Okay, if I zoom in on this, it is just saying hello world, and that's it. So this is a very simple XML code. We will learn about this uh, further down the session. The rest of the files over here, there is drawable, there is mipmap and values. Inside drawable, if you have any graphics like a PNG file or an XML file which has some kind of a graphics, in this case there is this graphic over here, you put all of these files in drawable. Okay, then you have layout, which consists of all of your UI screens. Inside mipmap, you put the app logo. So in this case, the app logo is this is what comes default. uh, So you put your logos inside mipmap, the app icons. Inside values, you put specific attributes, and we will talk about this in one of the code labs later. Okay. Now we are done with res. Now we are left with activity, and activity is basically where you are going to write your code in Kotlin. Okay. So for any application to work, for any activity on the screen, you need to have this class called activity. Okay, it should not be called only main activity or anything else, but it has to be a class named activity, and it has to inherit this thing called as app contact activity. Don't worry if you don't understand right now, we will study this again in a while. I just want you to notice one thing. This is a Kotlin class and there is no constructor over here. The reason for that is that we don't need a constructor in this class because this is already inheriting the constructor from its parent. Okay, if you don't know what inheritance is basically when you have another class and you create a new class which takes all of the functionalities and attributes from the other class. The parent class is what it's called. There is this function called onCreate. Okay, no need to see all of this. It just says that whenever the app is created, the activity is created, this function is going to run. Okay, everything that is written over here is going to be called. So today we are going to be writing stuff over here, just introducing you to it. There is this line called send content view, and there is this thing called as r.layout.activity underscore main. Okay, what this does is it tells the activity that, hey, for this particular activity, this is the layout file, activity underscore main, activity underscore main. If I click control and I click on this thing, I get switched to this screen. Yeah. Lastly, we will talk about Android Manifest. And Android Manifest is basically a declaration kind of a thing which tells the Android operating system about what this application is allowed to do. What is the scope of the application? How many activities does this application have? Where is the logo? Where does the application start? And if required, if the application requires any permissions like internet or camera or storage or everything, all of that information is going to be stored inside the manifest. Okay, we'll not go into much detail now. I think we have spent enough time understanding the anatomy of an Android project. That's it. Actually, it's very simple. We'll start with some UI concepts now. Other than that, when you click over here, right, this big play button, your app will start running. It will open the Android emulator. If I click on this, I already have the emulator running. It has one of these apps. This is what we are going to be trying to build today. So I just have it open here. We'll be creating a login screen. Right now, it is trying to run the application. It is just going to say hello world. Okay, that's the application that was there, right? So whenever you install Android Studio, just try running this basic hello world application just to see that it is working or not. In my case, it is working, so that's great. Yeah, so let's switch to the PPT, and we have seen all of this. Okay, now we are going to look at the layout files. Uh, we are going to talk about views. So what is a view? Okay, any object or anything that you see uh, on the screen of an Android project in the layout. Okay, there we saw hello world, right? That is called as text view. Okay, if you want to add any image to your screen, that is called as image view. If you want to add any button, that is also a view only. Okay, so if I open the Android Studio again, uh, if I open the layout file over here, everything that you find over here, right, inside this thing called palette, all of these are called views. Okay, they are views. So what does a view do? Basically, view is a kind of ways of you writing code that you can, have the UI. Anything, any object that you have on the UI is called a view. Okay, if it is not clear, it will be clear when we start adding functionality. Don't worry. Uh, so there is this basic dummy example of showing in an application of what is a view. Okay, so here we have a text view. Here we have something called as an edit text, basically a place where you can enter stuff, like enter a field. Okay, here we have a checkbox view or a radio view or an image view or a button. So I hope it's clear. A view is like a smallest UI component, right? uh, when you group views together, to do that you have something called as a view group. Okay, so there are different types of view groups. View group is nothing, you can just add multiple views inside of them, and you can organize those views such a way that they look good and they are not just flying around. So there are many types of layouts. The layouts are called view groups. There is frame layout, there is linear layout, and then there is constraint layout. We will be studying about constraint layout now. Frame layout is a very simple view group. In this, the frame layout, what it does is that it arranges the views itself. In linear layout, it arranges the views in a linear fashion, so one below the other, if it is vertical, or if it's a horizontal, then it's going to be one besides the other. In constraint layout, it basically arranges the views in the form of some constraints, and we're going to be learning about those constraints really quickly. Um, yeah, for each views, we write them in XML, and we will see what these means. Okay, for every view, right, you require these two attributes to be there. It's called layout height and layout width. Uh, I'll talk about more about this just now. Okay, so let's look at constraint layout really quickly. So there is this thing called as component tree. Okay, and then there is this called constraint layout. Okay, so this is the view group, and inside the view group we can have many views. So I'm going to be just adding some views over here. Okay, this is a text view, then there is a button. Okay, I'm just dragging and dropping stuff on the screen. If I can just, if I want, I can uh, drag stuff over here also directly, and it shows up over here. And what else? I'll just add this thing also. Then we can add image view also. Okay, if you want to show any image, I'll choose this image to show right now. That's the app logo. So when you add stuff directly into the GUI, it automatically writes up the code. Okay, so everything that we added, right, all of that code is right here. So we added a button. I'll split it. I added a button, and the code for the button is right here directly. Okay, the edit text ka button, the code is right here. Okay, the image view ka uh, the data is right here, the code. So what does all of this mean? uh, I'll go through that right now. Every view, right, be it any view, it requires something called as an ID. Okay, every view needs a unique ID. We need this ID because whenever we interact with them inside Kotlin, we need to identify them somehow. So that is why we're going to be using this thing called as ID. Every view has it, okay? And you can set a custom ID also. Don't worry. Okay? So that is about it. Now, when I want to arrange them, right? We'll study how do you arrange them. ऐसे तो नहीं रख सकते इसको, ठीक है? So we have to arrange them in such a way uh, that we have something meaningful out of it, right? Some meaningful user interface has to be there. So for example UI, I was thinking I will make a login screen and I'll show it to you. Okay? So what do you need in a login screen? You require uh, a place to enter your email. You require a place to enter your password. You need a button to sign in. You need a button to sign up. You need another button to, forgot password and stuff. So I think we have enough views for all of them. And now I'm going to be arranging these views such that we can make a sign-in page. Okay. And we are going to be making use of constraint layout. Okay. So if you see our top view group, okay, this thing that contains all the views is the view group. It is called constraint layout. What constraint layout does is that it has all of your views, and for every view you can select some constraints. Okay. And how do you do that is, see, every view has this circle over here on all four sides, right? Every circle, every view has it. See, all of them have it. What these does is that I can attach any of these circle by dragging from here, and I can attach it to any of the other ones. When I select the top one, you can see for the other views, the top one gets highlighted. See, for the button also, the top one is highlighted. For the image also, the top one is highlighted over here. You notice that, right? So I can attach it to any one of them. Here I'm attaching it to bottom one. So now what happens is that if I move the button, right, the other view is also getting moved. I'll do it the opposite way. Okay, so for example, here there is a text view. I'm going to attach this thing to this thing over here. So now when I move the button, my text view is also moving. My edit text is also moving. Okay, but they're only moving in the vertical direction because that is the only constraint that I have applied. Okay. Why is this useful is because this makes it easy for us to create applications which can withstand, changes in screens. So in case of Android, different Android phones have different screens. Some have big screens, some have small screens. So you want your UI to be reactive to all the different screens, right? So to do that, we are using constraint layout so that our UI doesn't break. It is scalable enough to hold it. Okay, so I think the background is a little bit too bright, so we'll just change that to something dark. I'm just changing it to a dark color right now. So to change any attribute, there is something called as background. So you can just change it to anything. Right now, I've put a very dark color to it. Uh, yeah. So to create a login screen, what I'm going to be doing is I need to arrange something for password. I need to arrange something for email address. So I'll use this thing for email and this field for password. And what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to attach the constraint. Okay. Both of them have to be together. So this thing has to be vertically constrained to the other view. And this is the horizontal constraint. So I'm attaching the horizontal constraint to the above view. Okay. Now this is the image. I would pretty much like if it was in the center. So I am attaching it to the sides. So now it is at the center. Okay. And I think this should be right below it. Yeah. So I'm going to constrain it over here. And for this thing also, I'm going to constrain it right at the center of the image. Then there is this thing. I will rename the text from here. I will call it forgot password. Okay, so now I have changed the text to forgot password. It is too dark, so I can change the color of the text also by writing here color. So it is created a field called Android text color, and I'm going to write FFFFFF. So this is like a hex code for color white. Okay, I can change the color from here. When I click on this, I can change it to any color, but for now I'm just going to leave it to white only. If you're not following, just let me know in the chat. Okay, I'm just going to anchor this thing over here so that it is in the between right here. Okay, so we have forgot password, we have a place to enter email, we have a place to enter password, and what else do we need? We need the sign in button again in the center, and the text I'm changing it to sign in. Okay, and then we have forgot password. So for forgot password, I would prefer it if it was down and to the right, to the left, maybe. Sorry, not forgot password. This will be to sign up. Sign up today. Okay. And for this also, we'll change the color to white. Again, I will go in the XML. I will type color, or rather text color. Not here, sorry. Text color, and I will write FFFFFF. So it is in the color white. Now, this does not look that much satisfactory. However, if you notice that I have attached constraints to all of the constraints that are attached to this. Okay. If I move this thing, the entire UI moves just like that. Okay. It doesn't work the other way around. If I move the other thing, it doesn't, the entire thing doesn't work. The entire thing doesn't move. Only things attached to this UI will move. So what happens with this is that whenever I change the screen, right, the UI is still intact. Okay, I'll attach it over here. So even for smaller screens, the UI doesn't break. So we will be building it for Pixel 2, but still it is going to work fine for any other device. But one thing that you must have noticed that it is all like very close together. It doesn't look all that well, right? So thing about constraint layout is that you can actually add something called as spacing or padding. So over here, right, you can see this thing. What this does is that it manages your constraints. Okay, so right now I have three constraints over here, one connected to this, one connected to this, and one on top. So here there is left, right, and top over here. These numbers over here, what they do is that I can add a number and then it will add that much space in between. So it has added that much space. Likewise, I'll add some space between this also. Okay, and then I'll add some space over here also, and over here also. Okay, what else? I think this thing also should be a little bit below. Now if I drag this out automatically, it is automatically changing and adding this some space over here. So that is something good about constraint layout, that it is very easy for developers to work around. And over here, I think we can still improve the UI. We can put a hint that this is where you have supposed to include the email. So inside here, I'm going to add an attribute called hint. And I'm going to write email. And I'm going to change the hint color to white. Okay. Similarly, for the other thing also, the password. What we are going to do is we are going to write hint, and hint is password. And then we have the hint color, which we are going to set as white. I added an extra. Yeah. So we have a very simple sign-in page. Another thing that we can do is that instead of writing the right constraints over here, we can write the right constraints and left constraint to the sides also. So let's do that. To remove any constraint, you can just click on this. There's a cross box over here. This will remove the constraint. And now it is constrained to the right. Okay, similarly for this thing also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain this to the right. Or rather I can do is I can constrain it to the view above. Okay, now if you notice, every view over here has something called as layout height and layout width, and almost all of them have the value called wrap content. Okay, what wrap content does is that it will minimize the required space that is required by this particular view. If you want, you can have a custom size also. Like if I change the size of this thing, it will add some values. Okay, instead you can also do something in constraint layout called as match constraint. So if I match constraint, right, what it will do is it will change the size of the view depending upon the constraint. So how do you do that? I will just click it over here again, and now it is going to match the constraint. So now the size, the horizontal size is matching the constraint. So it is like become like really wide. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some space on the left and on the right. And now, okay. So now what happens is that, now when I go to a smaller screen, the size of this field, right, it changes automatically. It was not happening before. If I just change it to something fixed, right, like if I change this to something fixed, then when I go to a smaller screen, if I enlarge this and if I go to a smaller screen, it is not changing it. It looks really ugly over here now because the size of the email field is not changing. So this is something very powerful about constraint layout, that you can select the size uh, of the views that you have, and it is very reactive to the design. Uh, what we can do now is that we can change this logo and we can change this background to something much better. Now I have some background files with me right now, so I'll show it to you. So I have this thing. This is one of the backgrounds that I'm going to be putting now. Any doubts till now? Are you guys following? I think I was a little bit too fast or a little bit too abrupt, but are you guys following with what I'm doing here? All right. So what I'm going to be doing now is that I'm going to be adding, I'll copy this, and inside this, right, in this folder in resources, there is this folder called drawable. I'm going to put this thing over here. Okay. Now it is there over here inside drawable. And I said, if any images you have, then you can just put this down in drawable. Now drawable is a folder. Okay. What I'm going to do is that for the background, before I selected a color, now I'm going to choose the name of this file. So the name of the file is iPhone_x.xs something something. I'm just going to call that iPhone. So it's the same file, and now I have the same background now. Similarly, I will add another file. This is a logo of one of the applications that I have made. So I'll just copy that and I'll put it here. Okay. And instead of this image that is there over here, I'm just going to change that to, that image that I just copied. It's called logo_white. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to write SRC. SRC stands for source, and I'm going to write logo_white. Okay, so now it shows up over here. Okay, I'll just minimize all of this so that you can see it clearly. Um, will the layout automatically adjust itself, move up when it actually taps on one of the text fields? Yeah, it does. I'll run this app and I'll show it to you just now how that works. If you notice, the logo looks really small, so we can do one thing. We can uh, add match constraints over here. So if I click over here, it will match constraint. So now the logo looks big. I think this distance could be increased by a lot. Or maybe what we can do is we can add another constraint down below. And this thing, right, this slider, what it's called is it's called bias. And when you have two constraints, right, you get this slider. So it is like a bias. Which constraint should I focus more on? So when it's 50-50, it will be right in the between. If you increase it towards one, then obviously it is going to go towards that constraint more. Okay. The problem with this thing is that when you lower it down, maybe there might be cases where it may not look good. But see, we just lost the button when we set the bottom constraint. So this should not happen when you are using the constraint layout. Okay. I'll just put the normal phone. So now we have created a very simple user interface of sign in, and I'll just add some padding over here also, some spacing over here also. So sign up today and then forgot password. Why I'm doing this, why I'm creating the sign in page is because now we are going to be learning about uh, this thing, fragments. So you require more than one screens to be there. So I thought login and sign up and all of those screens are going to be much better to implement. But I think it's going to be too time consuming. So I'm just going to hurry up now. Uh, I think this UI looks good enough now. We'll try to run this UI. We have not added any functionalities, but the UI is still there. Okay, so this is the UI. This is the app that is run. I'll run it again and I'll show it to you in the emulator because I think that loaded really quickly. So yeah, to answer your question, see, it pops up. For this also, it pops up automatically. So Android helps you in that. And then you can click sign in. You can add functionality. There's no functionality in this right now. We're going to add functionality right now. Don't worry. So how do you add functionalities? We add functionality inside this file called as activity, main activity. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do in your main activity is you have to map the activity to identify what each of these views are. Okay. So to do that, we have this thing called as ID. I said each view has to have an ID. What I'll do is I'll change the ID. Instead of calling it whatever this is right now, I'll call it something called as enter underscore email. Okay. Now the ID is enter underscore email. For this also, I'm going to write enter underscore password. Okay. And I'll click on this thing, sign in. It's called button. I'll let it be button only for now. Okay. I'm only attaching these three views right now because I wanted to show you some functionality right now. Okay. We'll be writing functionality for these two also really quickly. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to initialize three variables. These are going to be final variables. So I'm going to call them val. I'm going to call this email edit text. And this is an edit text. Edit text is a class which has all the functions of this particular view. This thing is called edit text. So there's a class of this, and I'm creating an object of that. And I'm going to write equal to, and there's this function called find view by ID. Okay. So here we have attached an ID over here. So we are using this function called find view by ID. This comes inbuilt inside the activity, app compact activity. So we don't have to worry about writing this. So we are writing find view by ID. Then inside here, we are going to write r.id dot the ID that we specified there. So the ID over here is enter email. Here also we're going to write enter email. Okay. Similarly, we are going to I'm just copying this lines just to save a little bit of time for password also. All right. Sorry. So it is going to be called password. And then we had a button. So I'm going to write val button. And for this, the data type is also button. There's a class called button. You don't have to worry about remembering all of these different types, because over here in the palette, whatever the name is, right, that is the name of the class of the object that you want to create. So if you have a scroll view, you can create an object of scroll view. If you have a switch, you can create a object of switch. Here, like I'm creating an object of button. You have to just, attach them to in find view by ID inside the activity. So it is called button. Now what I'm going to do is that functionality that I'm going to add is that whenever the person clicks on the sign in, you'll get a little small bubble over here saying that, hey, you have entered this email ID and this password. Okay, a little small notification. It's called a toast. And so for listening to any clicks on any button or any view for that instance, what you have to do is you have to add this thing called as on click listener. Okay, on click listener. It's kind of obvious, right? What it does. It listens to whether the person has clicked on that or not. Uh, so I'm going to write set on click listener button dot set on click listener, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an on click listener over there. So the on-click listener is inside view dot on-click listener, and inside here I'm going to write view and an arrow. If you don't know what this is a lambda function. Inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to write our logic over here. So what happens when you click on a button is what we're going to write over here. So I'm going to make a toast. So toast dot make text. This is a syntax. You don't have to remember this. We are going to write our message over here. Message is basically, hey, your email is this. Okay, and I'm going to write the val email is equal to something something. Okay, so I'm going to write the email. Email is a string, and I'm going to write the length long and show. Okay, that. So how do you get the email from the edit text? So edit text has this function inside of it called text. Okay, get text. So it has this variable inside it called text. If I write anything and then I call this function, what it's going to do is it's going to copy this value of whatever I'm writing inside here, and it's going to paste it inside the email, and then I can display it over here. Okay, so let's try this out really quickly, see if it's working or not. Hope it works. Otherwise, it will be really embarrassing for me. So I'm going to write ASD, and yeah, so your email is this ASD. I should have added some space. You get it, right? This is how you add some functionality to your views. I know I'm kind of going really fast, but we have to go through a lot more things right now. This is some text, and you're getting this information right here. Okay, so that's how on-click works. What we have seen till now, if you have any doubt in that, let me know now, because now we're going to be moving to some good stuff. We are going to be looking at fragments now. What we have seen till now is we have seen constraint layout, we have seen views, we have seen view groups, we have seen how to add images, we have seen how to add functionalities to the views, we have seen how to make variables out of these view objects. If in anything you have a doubt till now, let me know quickly. If you have not understood anything, or if anything is not clear, let me know. If you still don't want me to know, then what you can do is I have covered this much part today. Okay, inside this, 1, 2, 3, till 3 I have covered. I'm going to be covering fourth also. I think we're going to have that much time that we can cover only four. We cannot cover five mostly, but I want to cover four, and that is when we can leave. Okay. So any doubts till now? I don't know. I'm just continuing talking. So if you have any doubts, let me know. Yes, no, don't know. Are people listening? I'll wait for a minute. No doubts? Okay, nice. It's good to know that there are no doubts, but it will be bad if there are doubts and you guys don't have doubts because I'm not doing so well or anything. That's not the case. This is pretty simple to understand, I know, but then I can't speak for you, right? I'm kind of experienced in this now, so for me it's easy. I'm the one teaching you, so uh, we are going to be looking at fragments. So I don't have PPT for fragments, but I'll tell you in a very simple way. A fragment is like a small activity. Okay, a fragment is like a smaller version of a Kotlin file and an XML file. Let's just create a fragment right now. Okay, I will go to, I'll click right click here, and I will uh, go in new, and I will select a fragment. Okay. I will open this thing called as gallery, and you can see there are a number of fragments over here. I will select the empty fragment and I'll click next. I will call this thing log in fragment. And whatever is there over here, I will just clear up all of this. This comes pre-made so that you don't have to write all of this, but we will try and we will, write most of the code by ourselves. We'll let this one be. Okay. Now, if you see, there is a Kotlin file of a fragment, and then now we have an XML file also. And this looks pretty similar to what it was doing for an activity. So why do we have a separate thing called as fragment, and why do we have a separate thing called as activity? It's because what we do in Android, preferably, that activity is a very heavy thing. Okay, to run an activity, the life cycle of an activity is a very different thing compared to a fragment. So fragment is like a lightweight thing that you can add to the activity. So one activity can have many fragments, okay, many screens. So that is why fragments are used. You can add functionality to the UI, and you cannot run a fragment by itself. Okay, you require an activity, and you can only run the fragment inside an activity. So what I'm going to be doing now is that I said that I'm making the login page, and I'll make something simple for the sign up page, and we will show two different fragments. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just copy paste this user interface right here. I'll copy this much part, the part that is there inside. I will cut it, and I will add it over here inside the fragment underscore login. Okay. Over here, if you see, it's called frame layout, but I don't want to use the frame layout. So what I can do is I can change it to constraint layout, or I can click over here and I'll tell the Android Studio to change it to constraint layout, and it does it for me. So that's kind of convenient. I'll just paste everything that I made right now over here. So now we have the UI over here. For some reason, it is not working the way I expected it to work. I'll remove this ID. Okay, it is working, but there is no background over here, right? We did not copy the background. So I'll just copy, cut, paste that. And yeah, now it's the same thing, right? So we just put our activity ka UI inside a fragment so that we have the fragment ready. Likewise, here we had this function called as on create. In Fragment, you won't have that function inside Fragment underscore Kotlin. Here, what you need is on view created. Okay, so when you just write, there will be this function, you know, automatically it comes up on view created. And this function right here, right, find view by ID, this is not there in Fragment. So how do you do this? This function is there inside activity, app compact activity. So how do you get all of this data? Uh, when I copy paste it over here, it is going to throw errors. Ke, ye kya hai? Ye nahi hona chahiye idhar. So for this, right, what Fragment does is it has this thing called as view, and you can just write view dot find view by ID, and then it's fine. So pretty much what I've done here is I have transferred all of my activity ka code, and I have put it inside Fragment. Here also it is not accepting, but don't worry. I have not explained you why we are adding what this toast ka syntax is, and you don't have to worry about that. That is not part of your curriculum. I've just added that so that we have some functionality when we click on the button. Okay, now we are going to have a different functionality when we click on the button. Don't worry. Now, if you look in the main activity, it is completely blank. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is here there is this thing called as fragment. It is a view holder, and I will. What I'll do is in my main activity inside the layout, what I need is this fragment only. So I'll just add it. Okay. And what I'll do is I will attach the constraints to the entire UI so that it is spread out throughout the user interface. And I will tell it to match constraints. So it is spreading out throughout the screen. Okay. Now you cannot see it right now, but when I run it, what it's going to do is that it is going to run the fragment instead of this blank screen. So let me try, see, right? And the functionality is not changed. We have just transferred everything to the fragment and it still works fine. So a single activity can have many fragments, and the best part about fragments is that you can reuse them. And there are a lot of not best, but really good features in fragments. So you will learn about all of that in the fourth unit. Uh, Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to create another fragment, and this was actually supposed to be our sign up page. So I'll call it sign up page. uh, I am not doing anything over here. I'm just clearing all of this stuff up like I did previously. Okay, the Kotlin file, you get a Kotlin, you get a layout file over here. Okay. Now, I was actually planning that I will create the sign up UI also, but it is already 8 o'clock and I don't think I have enough time to create another UI. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be adding another button here, and hopefully that should compensate with what I actually wanted in hand. I was supposed to teach you navigation in between fragments. So that is why to navigate in between fragments, you need at least 2 fragments, right? So that's why I'm creating the second fragment. And what I'll do is when you click on this button, right, you will go back to the home screen. And when you click on sign up today, you will come to the screen. Okay. So right now I'll just uh, I'll add the button to, I'll change the ID of the button to sign up, sign underscore up underscore back. And I'll write here, go back. Okay. And there's a text view over here. It says, hello blank fragment. What I'll do is I'll change the text, and text I will write, this is sign up page. Okay. And I'll change the color to black. For black, it is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, hash 0, 0. If you don't know what this is, it is basically color codes, okay, in hexadecimal. So two numbers for red, two numbers for blue, and two numbers for green. And you can choose the color from here also. I think I've already showed you this already. I'll change the size. For size, right? For size, we use this suffix, right? Called SP. And the reason why we do that is that is how text is supposed to be. Okay, so this is sign up page. I hope this compensate, this is a really terrible UI, but then it will at least show that we have reached to the different fragment. Over here, what I'll do is I will attach ID to this text view. Right now it doesn't have any ID. So I will say login underscore sign login underscore sign button. Sorry, it is a text view, right? So I'll just write TV. So this is the ID of this thing. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is now I will attach an on-click listener like I did for the button to this thing. Okay, so the thing about on-click listener is that you can attach it to any view. Okay, so if I want, I can attach the on-click listener to the image also, to this also. Right now it already has, right? It already has it implemented, but you can override that also if you want. What I'll do is I will attach I'll create a variable of this text view and then I'll attach it. So I'll create val. It is called sign up text view. I will initialize it as a text view and I'll write find. Sorry, we are in a fragment, so it has to be view dot find view by ID r.id dot login sign TV. This was the ID that we have put over here. So now we have the variable. Now what are we going to do? We are going to attach a button dot set on click listener. Then view dot on click listener, and then I'll just write V and an arrow. And now we have place to do whatever we want to do when you click on this. So what we need to do is that we want to navigate in different fragments, right? So how do you do that? In olden days, right? Before, why am I saying olden days? Previously, it used to be very difficult to navigate between fragments. Now there is something called as navigation library, which Android Studio has come up with, for Kotlin and for even for Java. This is there. It is a library, so we have to install the library. So finally, we are going to be adding stuff inside Gradle. So where do we add? Where do we add libraries? Can anyone say that? I just said it, but anyone? How do you add libraries inside Android Studio? How do you add libraries inside Android project? Guys, okay, I'll just say it very quickly. You add it in the gradle.build. No, not in the manifest. In the manifest, we add permissions. If you want to add libraries to your project, you put it in Gradle. Okay. So there's this thing called as dependencies. Over here, you have to write the link of where the library is. So I already have it copy pasted. This is the library that I'm using. It's navigation UI library. And this thing pops up, okay? Gradle files have been changed. You have to sync it now. So I'll just sync it now. What it's going to do is that it's going to download the libraries for you. So you can see it is saying that okay, it has already installed it. It's loading very quickly today for some reason. It says that a newer version is available. I'm not shifting to that. How do you know which library to install would be one of the questions that you must be thinking. And oftentimes you can just refer the documentation. They already have this line over there. And a lot of the times you can also go to the web and you can write, for example, I'm using navigation library. So you can write navigation library, Android, Gradle dependency. Okay, and in the first link itself, you might get it. Okay, over here, just like that. Or if you still can't get it, or if it is not there in the official thing, then there is something else called as MVN repository. This is another website. Over here also you can get it. So here's the latest version of it. Okay, here's the name of the library over here. So yeah, so now we have the navigation library installed. I'll show it to you. How do you use this? How do you use it to navigate between fragments? You have to first create something called as a navigation path. So you come over here in Resource Manager, okay, and inside Resource Manager there is this tab called as Navigation. Okay, inside Navigation you are going to add a new navigation resource file, and I'm going to write login navigation navigation. That's enough, I think. And this thing is so nice, because now you can just drag and drop the way we were doing for UI. Similarly, now we can do it for fragments. So I'm just going to choose my 2 fragments. I'm going to add those 2 fragments here like this. And see, this is my login fragment and this is my sign up fragment. And how do these paths work? Okay, when you click on this thing, this fragment can take you to this other fragment. So you just put an arrow over here and it will add the action over there. Okay, I'll show you this. This will only add the action. This will not take you there when I click over here. We'll add the functionality on the on-click listener inside this. But to add the path, कि किधर जाने का है, that you are doing over here. And when you click on go back, you should go back to this screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here and I'm going to drag it to the home fragment, the login fragment. Okay. So now what I have here is that I have 2 paths. I have one path going from here to here, from login fragment to sign up fragment, and then you have a sign up fragment to login fragment. You're going another path. So all of this is going to be there inside the XML code. Okay, you did not have to write all of this. You can just drag and drop over here, and so that's it. If you notice, all of this also has an ID. This action called as ID. Here it is called sign up fragment to login fragment, and then here it's called login fragment to sign up fragment. Okay, this ID is there. We are going to be using this to add the functionality. So over here inside login fragment, what we have done is we have set the on click listener, and we have not written any logic over here. So we are going to write the logic here. That what you have to write over here is that you need to tell Android that you want to follow the path that we just created. So how do you do that? You have to find out the navigation controller. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so fragments by itself have this thing called as find nav controller. Okay, so find nav controller dot navigate. Inside the navigate, you have to write the ID of what path you want. So over here we had this path, right? So this path ID is action underscore login fragment to sign up fragment. This is the ID of this path. So that's what I'm going to write. Dot ID dot action underscore login to sign up. Okay. So I'll just run this very quickly just to show you that it is working. Okay, for me also it will be sure, right, that what I'm teaching you it is right. So signed up today, and now for some reason it crashed. What's the issue? Okay, constraint layout has some issue. Okay, there's no nav controller set. Okay, sorry. Over here, right, I forgot one thing, that inside the activity, inside this thing called fragment, you are supposed to add something called as navigation controller, because uh, we are calling the navigation controller inside here, inside the cotton file, but there is no navigation controller inside the activity. So you'll have to add nav controller. How do you add nav controller? Let me quickly check. you'll have to add a navigation graph. So nav, for some reason it's not showing. Uh, just give me 1 minute. And we'll have to add this one line, nav graph. And here we are going to choose the name of this thing, the navigation controller, right? Login, login, login navigation. Now it should work fine. Okay, now the UI also working, showing up over here. Hopefully it doesn't crash now. See, in live demos, things crash, and that is not good. Did I attach the wrong thing over here? I don't think so. Does not have the, did I not run this? Okay. Till then, if you have any doubts, let me know. It says navigation controller is not set, but then I did set the navigation controller over here. Set default navigation host. Mostly, I think there might be some issue with this layout. Okay, I'll have to add another line that I have not added. Okay, I have to call it navigation controller instead of what it was originally called. Okay. Okay, now it's working finally. Hush. I don't have any doubts, but how can we access these recordings? See, when the workshop ends, right, we'll be putting everything on YouTube. But we're not putting it now because if we don't put now, then if we put it now, then you may not attend the sessions. And if you're not attending these sessions, then what's the point, right? If you have a doubt, then you must ask right now. And because I'm available right here for doubts, then why you should not be afraid because I'm not a teacher, right? Like I'm not your college teacher, so I'm your senior, so you can ask me any doubts you have. We'll attach the on-click listeners for this button also really quickly, and then I think we can call it a day. I'll add here on view created. I know I'm doing a lot of stuff here, like we have a lot of content to actually go about, and then rightly so, at the beginning somebody said that a lot of content is being skipped. I hope you understand now why the content is being skipped, because there's a lot of content that it is difficult to cover in 1 hour sessions. So in 3 sessions to cover that much is a lot. Tomorrow we have even more content where we are going to be downloading data from an open API, a REST API, and we're going to be making something called as a recycler view, and then we're going to storing data inside a database. Again, that is also a lot of stuff, right? So if required, however, we will host more sessions, but there should be interest from you guys. Okay, it should not be. For me, it is not an issue. I can host as many sessions if I want. But for me to back it up to DSC, there should be people who are attending the sessions, right? So I am given 3 sessions. For those 3 sessions, I have to cover as much as I can. So You don't have to worry if you did not follow anything specifically. Obviously, you have to do it inside uh, these sessions. So this thing, right, what I just covered about navigation, step-by-step thing is given over here. Create a fragment, define navigation paths. There's also one thing called as external activity, which I was going to cover, but we don't have time for that. Over here, right, you have everything from the XML file to drawing the path to even setting the on-click listener and navigating and stuff. So you don't have to worry if you missed out on anything. You won't get any doubts. You'll get doubts when you're doing this, and that is when you're supposed to use Discord. Okay, when you have a doubt by doing this, that is when you're supposed to contact me on Discord. I checked, but nobody was active on this study jams group. uh, but there's only one person who is active. I hope you guys are going to start these things. Okay, at least the first unit. The first part is very small. Second also is very small. Third and fourth is where the content that we have covered today is going to be useful. And my username is dr34m. I'll just copy it and I'll paste it here. Okay, I think I should probably change it to something that's much more recognizable, but it's okay. I'll just quickly add the text view over here. But it's a button, right? Sorry, it's button. So yeah, button find. Sorry, it's view. Find view by ID. You guys don't mind the session is getting a little bit extended, right? View dot find view by ID r dot ID dot the ID for that button. Okay, in the second fragment over here, it's called sign up back. So that's what I'm going to put here, because this is very basic stuff, find view by ID and just attaching it to a variable inside Kotlin. I know it might sound very trivial and everything, but then we have to start from small steps, right? We first saw the project. I think we wasted a lot of time over there, but it's okay, I think, uh, because you should know that why are there so many files and everything. So we are writing set on click listener, and we have to write view dot on click listener. This is something that comes in very handy, on click listener, and you're going to be using that a lot when you build your own app. What did we do? We did navigation controller, nav controller. Yeah, what was a nav controller or find nav controller? Okay, find nav controller. So when I click on this, right, what it does, it automatically imports the nav controller from the library. Okay, so this thing was not there before. I'll show you what happens when you remove that library ka line in Gradle. Okay, you can do that. See, some people have started leaving, so it's okay, because I think the session has started too long, lasted longer than what it was supposed to be. But it's okay if you guys are okay with it. Navigate and r.id. Whatever the name of that path was. This is from sign up fragment to login fragment. So I'll do this really quickly. I'll run it. Now it has started. And now when I click here, I go to the sign up page. Now I click here, I go back. Okay. So we saw some really basic stuff. We saw how to build UI. We saw how to navigate between fragments. We saw what are fragments in the first place. We saw that fragments are smaller activities, but activities are anything that is happening on your screen. Any functionality. It is like a pair of an XML file and a Kotlin file. Kotlin file is where you write your logic. And then we saw how to use this really handy tool to navigate between fragments. What else can we do? We don't have much time, so I think we can run. There was one more thing I wanted to show you, how to create, navigate to another activity, but maybe we should do that tomorrow, because we don't have much time now. If you have any doubts, let me know. I'll just show you how you're supposed to do this. What you're supposed to do now, like once the session is over, what you can do is you can go through these units, the entire unit 1. to be honest. And if possible, you could be, you can be completing till 4 at least, or maybe even 5. 5 is not that big. uh, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to click on each one of them, and you're supposed to take the code labs. And when you're done with the code lab, right, it's not that you should just click next, 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 and get done with it. No, you have to actually go through the content. It's very nicely written, and you'll understand a lot. And then you have a quiz based on it, so you have to do it sincerely. Okay. And what I really care about is that you get passed in this quiz. Okay, when you pass the quiz, you will get the badge that you can show over here. Okay, like a badge. And I don't think you will have any issues if you have understood the today's session properly. Then you will be able to complete all 5 of them mostly. uh, you may have some doubts, but if you have those doubts, put it on Discord. If you want, now you have my ID, so you can DM me also on Discord. uh, Yeah, so this was a very simple session where we got introduced to Android Studio. We did very basic stuff in Android, and tomorrow we are going to do some more, uh, not so much basic stuff. We will do some internet connectivity stuff. We'll be getting data and we'll be showcasing it. It may look simple, but it's not that simple, to be honest. It is enough to build a good enough application which communicates to a REST API. Uh, Hopefully tomorrow's session does not last this long, but maybe I will extend it a little bit, and it's fine with you guys also. Go to this link. I'll copy paste it. In tomorrow's session, I'll try to be much faster, if that is the thing. If I'm going too fast, let me know. If I'm going too slow, let me know. If you're not able to understand, let me know. I really want this thing to be more interactive than what it is. Acha, I missed out this one question. Are the text and button objects created in a fragment local to that fragment only? Yes, they are local to that fragment only, because you're creating in the XML. Okay, so they are local to that fragment only. But the thing about fragment and activities is that you can have multiple fragments in the same activity running side by side. So over here, what I've done is, in this case, right, I added the fragment to occupy the entire activity. But what I can do is I can make this thing smaller, and I can add another one of this, the sign up page, and I can write it over here only. And the best part about fragment is that you can instantiate the same fragment again, so you can reuse it again. And that is what you're going to be doing in this unit, seventh unit. It is coming, so you don't have to worry, but you will understand how powerful fragment is, because it's very lightweight, so you can add many of them. And in some applications like Gmail or any of these other applications, where if you rotate the application, rotate your device, sorry, then you get a different layout. I'll show it to you. I'll what I'll do it, I'll open it in my phone, and I'll show it to you right now how Gmail looks like when you rotate it. So what happens in that is that uh, what it does is, that is okay, it's not happening in my phone, never mind. But you can modify the layout such that your fragments are alive throughout the duration of the activity. So in that case, it makes it really uh, powerful. How do you connect fragments if there is uh, more one button in a single fragment? Okay, if there are more than one buttons, right? So here in the navigation you're asking, right? I'm presuming that is what you're asking in this thing. So thing is that, let me try adding in another function over here. See what is happening here. Okay, I'll do it again. Just notice over here. Okay, I'll just do this again. This action comes up over here, right? So what we were doing is, we were binding this actions ID, and we were attaching that to the Kotlin file in over here in Navigate. See, So if you have more than one button, right? So I can just write another button and I can just put a different ID. Or if it's doing the same thing, if it's connecting to the same, see, these are doing the same thing only, right? It is connected to this fragment only. But if I add another fragment, see, I'll put a placeholder here. And if I'll add this thing over here, okay, so now there is a different action. I'll just remove all of these actions so it is much more clear. I'll put it again. Okay, one is going to the placeholder, one is going over here. And now you have two actions. One is going to the placeholder, one is going to the sign up fragment. So this ID is just telling the compiler of Android that this fragment is supposed to move from this to this, and then it is given this thing and an ID. And I'm just using that ID and I'm attaching it to the button myself. Android is not doing it directly. Okay. Android doesn't know कि अगर गो बैक पे दबाया तो फिर ही जाने का दूसरे फ्रैगमेंट पे या फिर साइन अप टुडे पे दबाया तो फिर ही जाना चाहिए आई हैव टू स्पेसिफाई दैट इन द ऑन क्लिक listener and how does this variable know के कौन सा view है it knows it from find view by id because when I click on this right if I control click on this it is going to show me this thing because this is the id from where I have taken it so that is how it is working okay it's very simple I can do the same for forgot password also. I can open a different screen. So you can have multiple navigations like that. Sir, हम assignment कब कर सकते हैं? कभी भी कर सकते हो, whenever you want. And especially after this session, it will be much more clearer when you are doing it, you know, because even if you don't understood the session properly, you can still understand from these code labs because they are very nicely done. Uh, Okay, over here you have constraint layout and there's this concept called data binding. I did not cover this because I thought it is it is very easy to understand. Okay, I'm only covering the important parts which you might have doubts in. Okay, but if you have a doubt in which a topic that I have not covered yet, then you can definitely contact me. I will teach it to you. Don't worry. Does navigation work like a stack, like pushing and popping? You can get it to work in like a stack. In fact, you can even get an action to do this. You know, you can even point it to yourself. Although what my interpretation is to your question that if you click back, then will it take you back to the original screen, right? I don't think that is how it works, but we can try. If it works in that way, I think this is what you want to know, right? Okay, if I click on back, will it take me back? It does take you back. See, if I click on this and if I click on back, it does take you back to the home screen. Okay, over here, this thing, the small icon, it indicates the home screen. So if you don't want this to be a home screen, if you want this one to be a home screen, you can just click on here and you can uh, set as the home screen or somewhere. Set a start destination. So this will set it as a start destination. Any more doubts? Will the layout automatically rearrange itself when moved up? I think I've answered this question before. Any more doubts? Otherwise, I'll conclude the session and I'll start preparing for tomorrow's session because tomorrow what we are going to be doing is we are not going to do this much simpler stuff. We won't be interacting with the UI that much. Tomorrow we are going to be interacting with most of the stuff is going to be done in Kotlin tomorrow. And someone asked that a lot of stuff was being skipped in Kotlin, but do you have any difficulty understanding Kotlin here? I don't think it was that difficult, but I can't say for you. Any difficulty understanding Kotlin code, this code? If you have problems understanding any of the Kotlin code, then let me know. You can either let me know now or in Discord. What this arrow does is basically it's like a function only, like this is a variable and whatever lines you have here, this is like a body of the function. I'll wait for like another minute, and if you guys don't have any doubts, we can conclude the session. I understood Kotlin taught in this session. Okay, nice. That's great. Because see, when we learn about a programming language, specifically to the programming language, we learned their features. But in our case, what we are trying to do is that we are learning it for the sake of understanding Android, how Android works around it. So this is a lot different than compared to learning a language. Obviously, you should know the basics. Otherwise, you will not understand why we're using val. Why not var? Why are we not using var over here? Someone tell me. Why are we using val? Okay. Anyone? We know that val will, yeah, because we don't change the values. Very nice. So for val, we val variables are final, and for var, you change the variables in the future when you know that you're going to change them. And the reason why you have these two different things is because when you compile it, val works faster comparatively. So, and especially in an Android application or any application for that matter, you want it to be fast, right? You want it to be more efficient. That is why all of this. Now here we did not apply any software engineering concept or anything. We just use some plain functions. But in future, when you build applications properly, you will have to start using algorithms and data structures. And we talked about generics and collections in the previous semester. We did not use them over here. In the next session, we'll be making use of lists. So you can check that out. What you need to do is you need to start going through these code labs now. Okay, it is a good time to start and get some projects, not projects, get some badges over here. Okay, I hope all of you know what I'm talking about till now. Okay, ये badges तो मिल जाने चाहिए. And if you are feeling too enthusiastic, आप श्योर कर सकते हो गिट पे. Actually, you know what, ये पूरा कोड जो है ना कोड लैब्स का, ये पूरा का पूरा कोड है गिटहब पे. ठीक है. And if you want my code, because I have taken different example over here, and the whole point of me taking a different example was because if I teach the same thing and if you don't understand that only, then you won't have variety. So that is why if you still want my code, I will still put it up on GitHub and I'll share it with you. ठीक है? Do you want it? I don't think it is that much, but still okay. I'll share it anyway. Yeah. Okay, if you're feeling too enthusiastic, maybe you can just look up to some of the next unit also, but I would recommend not to, because most of these are, you might be a little bit intimidated by architectural components. The thing that it starts with, it looks a little bit daunting, but then it's pretty simple. I'll tell you why. The most longest unit over here is this one, the unit 7, and we'll be covering this in the next session because you should not get stuck over here. And we are also going to be covering the rest of them tomorrow. So like today, tomorrow's session will also be a little bit extended mostly. And I can see 12 attendees. Yesterday there were 25. I hope tomorrow it is not 5. I hope all 12 of you are there right now listening. And tomorrow also you will be there. All right. So if nobody has any doubts, I will conclude this session. I will stop recording now.